So this limit's going to be a little bit trickier because we have this square root on the bottom. So what's the biggest degree in the denominator? It's x squared. But the x squared is in a square root. So really, the highest degree in the bottom is actually square root x squared, because you have to have the square root to get inside, and then you have x squared as the highest degree, which if you think about that, isn't that equal to x? Here's the problem though. When you square root something, there's these negatives lost. It's kind of like when you say x squared equals, say, 7. Don't you, when you solve this, you square root both sides, and don't you have x equals positive or negative the square root of 7? All right, so there's this hidden positive negative. Now, so this is going to get tricky here. You'll see in a second. So we have to worry about this positive negative idea. And since this is a negative, we have to imply this negative idea. You'll see that in a second. It's a little tricky. Luckily, it is only on these weird square root special cases. All right, so we're going to take 5x, and we're going to divide by, we're not going to divide by the square root of x squared, we're going to divide by x. But since it's a negative we're plugging in, I need the negative x. I need to keep track of that negative x. So I'm going to divide by negative x. All right, and then the minus 2 divided by the negative x. All right, and then the square root is just going to be the x squared over x squared, because this one has the square root, so we're not worried about the same kind of thing. And this is the x squared, because again, let's describe that to you. Isn't this the square root of x squared? Is that how you get inside of here? I can't just put x here because there's a square root around it. So for the bottom ones, I use this, but for the top ones, I use the x. But because I plug in a negative, I have to use the negative side of this. Okay, so if this is a positive infinity, we would just leave regular x and not have the negatives on top. It's a little tricky. All right, next, so let's do the limit as x approaches negative infinity, and this would be negative 5 plus 2 over x, and that's going to be over 1 minus 1 over x. All right, so what does that give us? Well, let's plug in our infinity. We now have negative 5 plus 2 over negative infinity. Want that, which becomes 0, which, let me go back and do that. Let's just make that a 0 right there. There's a 0. The square root of 1 minus 0. So what do we have here is negative 5 over the square root of 1, which is 1. So my answer here is equal to negative 5. So negative 5 is what this graph is approaching as you go in the negative direction. Once again, this screwiness of a negative positive with square root x squared, only have to worry about this weirdness is when you have a square root issue that you're trying to divide by. So normally that's not the normal case of most problems. This is just a special one.